Awesome. How's everybody doing? Good. Yeah. Here for round 2 of Transition Clinic. So basically, so we have 2 clinics tonight, kind of separate. So I'll just explain the difference so that, is anybody staying for the second one as well? Okay, good. So there's some things that we'll kind of save for the second one that might also be applicable in the Transition Clinic. So basically for this one, I'm just gonna go through what you need in transition, how you set it up, how it all works. In the next clinic, that will be more like if we want to go back to why would you want triathlon clothing, or like this is what I'm experiencing in training, things like that. So we'll cover all of those, which is basically be a question and answer session during the next one. So, but if as we go along you have any questions about transitions, please don't hesitate to ask. So transitions, there's 2 of them. There's T1 and T2. So T1 is when you're coming out of the swim and getting on the bike. T2 is once you've come back from the bike and then going out on the run. So you're always going to come back to the same spot in the transition area. So in the Chicago Triathlon, the transition area is set up in a grassy area. It's going to be filled with racks like this. So hundreds of racks like this. All will have a number on those racks, so it will say number 1 through 20. That's going to correspond to the number of your bib. So that's how you know what rack to find. Some years they switch it up. Last year you didn't have a specific spot. Some races will have specific spots. Like if you're number 353, there'll be a piece of tape on the rack that says number 353, and that's where you'll put your bikes. Last year at Chicago Triathlon, and I think how they're doing it again, but we can ask that question to Hootie from Chicago Triathlon, who will be here for the next clinic. They do it by sets of numbers, so there's like 10 people on a rack. So for transition before the race, you have 2 choices. You can either put your bike on the rack the day before, so on Saturday, or you can do it the morning of on Sunday. So on Saturday, there'll be a specific time that you can go into the transition area and rack your bike. You wouldn't rack any of your stuff. You're just gonna rack your bike. Benefits of that for some people is if you're traveling in, you don't want to drag your bike into the city at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. on Sunday. So that's a big reason a lot of people do it. If you don't do it then you're going to do it the morning of race day. There'll be specific times that transition opens. Those times, we'll get those times for the next clinic. So clinic number 6 is basically going to be your own private court stop. So they'll actually bring in Dave Kappas usually, or Hootie from the Chicago Triathlon, who will walk through all of the logistics, the wave start times, the rules, all that stuff. That's when the final kind of transition times will be set to be open. Usually it's around 4 o'clock, 4:30, somewhere within there. And then step back here. There's 2 different times that transition is open. For the international distance, it's really early in the morning, so 4:30 to like 6:30 or something like that. If you're in the sprint distance, you can also rack then, but if the sprint distance start time isn't until 9:30, that's a long time to wait. So they reopen transition area later on, like 7:30 to 8:30, so that anybody doing the sprint can rack then. So that was a big change they made probably like 5 years ago, that people used to talk about how they would rack their bike and go back home and go to bed for 4 hours. So it wasn't the most convenient. So it's a nice thing they've done. So either way, you'll rack your bike. If you do it Saturday, you're not going to be putting your stuff, which means you still have to come back to transition the morning of. You just have to bring your bike with you. So morning up, you're gonna rack your bike on a rack like this, like we said, between the numbers that correspond to your bib number. Biggest thing about transitions is basically if you haven't used it for the past 12 weeks, you are not gonna need it on race day. So less is more in transitions for sure. A lot of times people will start to think, well, maybe I'll need this or maybe I'll need that. If you haven't used it before, like, you don't need it. And the cleaner it can be, the easier it's going to be to handle during the race. So we'll go through. So you come in, you rack your bike, you set up your stuff. The stuff that you're going to take out of the transition area with you, because now you're just going straight to the swim. So you're basically, you might have a wetsuit with you if you're swimming with a wetsuit, so you'll take that with you. You'll also have, so this is not accurate, but you'll have a swim cap that's given to you by the triathlon, so you don't have to worry about that. They'll give you one. It's a number that's going to correspond to your wave. Your goggles, also important, because once they close transition, you can't get back in. So you can't be like, oh, I forgot something. They're not gonna, it's more like a safety issue, a liability issue. They're not gonna let you back in once they say, like, transition is closed at 6:30, it closes. And unfortunately, we have had like a few people that show up at 6:45 and they just won't let you in. That's one, so that we all get to go home with our bikes and none of them walk off, things like that. So you'll take whatever it is you need for the swim. Some people, because now you're going to have to walk to the swim start, though they carpet a lot of it and the concrete's not bad, some people choose to bring like a pair of old flip-flops or something that they don't care. Just know if you take it to the swim start, you're probably not getting it back. So don't bring anything that you want later. I did a triathlon not too long ago and for some reason was still wearing my tank top, and I put it, like, I thought I hid it under a tree, but it was completely gone when I got back. So typically it's not there when you get back. Few other things. If you wear glasses or need like an inhaler or something like that, by swim exit. So you're actually going to walk by swim exit to get the swim start. By swim exit, there's a special needs table where you can leave glasses or an inhaler or anything that is kind of an emergency that you might need right when you come out of the water or in the water. So that's one thing to remember. So you'll walk down to swim starts. Jump in the water. We've kind of talked about how the logistics of the race work. It's an in the water start, so you'll go, you'll swim. You'll if you're doing the international, you swim south a little bit and then swim back north. If you're doing the sprint, you're just swimming north. You're gonna get out. It's gonna be out of some stairs, out of the water, but luckily there's a lot of people there helping you get out of the water. And then you have about a quarter mile of a run or a walk back to your transition area. That is carpeted, so it's usually not bad, so don't worry about like your feet getting hurt or anything like that. They carpet it. But this time it's a good time to kind of, you've just gotten out of the water of the swim, so your balance is a little off, so just taking it easy, getting your bearings back with you. If you're wearing a wetsuit, this is also a good time to start taking it off, because presumably you're not full on sprinting this part of it. So taking it off, I usually take it off halfway, because that's half of your work is done before you get back to the bike. So you're gonna run into transition. This is the first hard part, finding your bike. Because if we remember, Chicago Triathlon is not your neighborhood triathlon. It's a very large triathlon, and there's going to be about 8,000 bikes in there. And so how do you find yours? Well, good thing is, before you left transition in the morning, a good thing to do is to try to find landmarks. Like, try to find, am I by the big tree? Or am I by some certain sign that I'll remember? Something that at least gets you in the right area. Because sometimes the numbering, like, it's not always, like, which way does it go up or down? So finding things that remind you where your bike is.
Do they restrict you for putting anything on the rack itself, like a balloon?
Yeah, so they used to do that. They used to allow that, but now they don't. So you really can't. The things that you can do, though, I mean, and some of these may be for the future, but it's a good reason why to do your handlebars some odd color or something, or a bright color that it's like going to the baggage claim, like every bag is black, like, and so get some kind of bright colored handlebar tape. Something like this, having a towel or something that's a certain color that you'll remember, not just a white towel. So like this one's blue. So at least you'll have, like, if you can get in the right area, you can start to figure out, like, oh, here it is. But yeah, they don't allow like the balloons and stuff anymore. So you'll go. You're running up into transition. You have your wetsuit half off. You'll find your bike. So your transition area that you will have set up is set up by your front wheel. So the bikes will be on the rack. Actually, we should run out another one. The next bike to you will actually be facing the opposite direction. So that's a good thing to remember too. When you go the morning of, somebody will have set the precedent of which way our bike's going, but you always want to alternate. So the next person would rack it so their front wheel is going that way, and so you go like that. So that allows everybody to have space by their bikes and more bikes to fit onto the rack. But it goes by your front wheel here. So you come up to it, you have your wetsuit half down. At that point, you're going to take the wetsuit the rest of the way off. And so now we're going from the swim to the bike. Sorry. So you're going to take your wetsuit all the way back down. Drop. You have your goggles and your swim cap. Big thing is, it always looks nice and pretty before the race starts, but once the race starts, stuff starts to get all over the place. So if you want to go home with your wetsuit, your goggles, and your swim cap, it's a good idea to kind of make it into as small as you can and place it somewhere. Usually if you can do it like kind of in the middle of the bike, so if it was done here, put it here, most likely it's still going to be there. Things to probably avoid is like putting it over the rack, because probably the next person who comes to get their bike, it's going to come off, or when people put it back on, they'll put their bike on top of your wetsuit, things like that, because people are in a hurry. So coming out, we've got it off. So now we're going to the bike. So the way that, and everybody does it a little bit differently, and you'll hear a lot of different ways, which is also a good reason to practice transitions. So even at home, setting it up, or if you go down to Ohio Street Beach one time, set up your stuff and practice it. But these are the kind of things that both Rashawn and I, it's kind of how we do it. So I'm coming in this way. I'm gonna set up my bike stuff before my run stuff, because that's the first stuff I need. The other thing I always think about is you want to make it, you want to have the lowest chance that your stuff is going to go flying for some reason, which means like somebody just comes in and accidentally kicks it or whatever. So for me personally, I will put my helmet in between my bike shoes, or if you're not wearing bike shoes, you can put it inside your running shoes. Because sometimes if you just leave your helmet right here, somebody comes through, it's gonna fly somewhere. And that doesn't happen very often, but you always just try to kind of protect against anything that might happen. So I'll set up my helmet in between my bike shoes. The other key is setting your stuff up so that you can't forget anything. And ideally, at the end of the triathlon, you will have used almost everything that you brought. So I know for the bike, what I need are, I wear bike shoes. Put these here. I wear socks when I wear bike shoes. Some people don't, but I like to have socks. Helmet, always a key. You have to have a helmet. And I also like to ride in sunglasses. So that's all I need to get on the bike. So I'll set it up first. It's right there. I can't forget my sunglasses because they're inside my helmet and ready to go. These are just some of the little things, like not having, you set your sunglasses up open so that you just put them on and go. Same thing with socks. You put one in each shoe so that you can just put them on and go. A couple other things, having a water bottle, not just to get some water during transition, but you just came out of the water, you ran across concrete. A couple of years ago, it was super muddy at Chicago Triathlon, so your feet might be super dirty. Big thing is, like, you don't want to ride 26 miles or 15 miles uncomfortable. So having some water that you can just rinse off your feet, and then just having a towel that you can dry them off, because nobody likes wet socks and wet shoes. So that's just a good tip. So yes, you put it all on, and then you head off on the bike. So get out of transition, so basically you're going to drop your bike off here and you're going to take off. Always remember, if you're touching your bikes, which is why the helmet should be the first thing you put on, If you're touching your bike, your helmet has to be on. That's one of the big rules, safety rules. So helmet's on, I've got my bike, and then you're gonna take off. Outside of transition, there's gonna be a big kind of sign that says bike out. So that's where you're gonna go to leave. When you get closer to it, you'll see a big orange line with cones and a lot of people standing there. That's called the mount line. And you can't get on your bike until you pass the mount line. So it means you can't ride your bike out of transition, and you can't get on it until you get out the mount line. Another just little tip, and we'll make sure, you'll hear these more and more as the race day starts coming closer, but making sure that your bike is in a easier gear. So you don't want it in your hardest gear because you're going to get on your bike. There's a little bit of a hill at the beginning. And so if you're in a super hard gear, it's gonna be really hard to get started going. So making sure your bike is in a pretty easy gear just to get started. And then you can shift up as you start going. So that's just a little tip. As we also have talked about, so the bike is gonna be up to Hollywood and back on Lakeshore Drive. It's a really scenic, nice bike ride. If you're doing the International, you'll go through Lower Wacker. You'll come back into near the transition area and there'll be that same orange line with cones and people. That's called the dismount line, which means you have to get off your bike before you cross that line. So you can't ride over the line. You get off your bike before you cross the line, and then same thing, you're gonna run or walk your bike back into transition. You get to do it again. Where is my stuff? So this one gets a little bit more, ugly because now there's no bikes there, or there's a few bikes there. So now you have to go off of what's on the ground, which is why having something brightly colored or really knowing exactly where your bike is a good idea. You re-rack your bike the same way you came out with it, and now you're transitioning from, this is the T2, you're transitioning from the bike to the run. So in the triathlon, numbering, how you're identified. In the swim, it's really just by your cap. I guess I should have mentioned this. You'll have a timing chip around your ankle the whole race. Good thing to put it on your left ankle. If you've ever commuted to work in jeans and got it caught in the gears and then ripped your jeans, that's why you put it on your left ankle, not your right ankle, because it won't be near your drivetrain. But in the swim, the only way that you're kind of numbered is by your cap and by that timing chip, so they know who's gotten out of the water. On the bike, you're gonna get a number for your helmet and you're gonna get a number for your bike. You'll also have, they do the temporary tattoos that you put on, so that they'll also have that on, they'll be on your calves or wherever they tell you to put it this year. And then the run is the only time that you need a number on the front of you. So that's one thing. So that's what we've talked about. Race belts. So race belts are good because, like I just said, the run is the only time that you need the number on your front. If you've done a 5K and you pin the number to your front, and then try doing that in riding, then it flaps the whole time and it's just not comfortable. So that's where the race belt is like one of those, $16 investments that makes your life so much easier. But basically the number will be attached to here, and so this, you only need to wear this during the run. But that's a little bit of a tangent. But so basically you come back from the bike, you're gonna take your helmet off, take your shoes off the same way. You put it down on your mats, again trying to keep it close together so you go home with it all. And then it's onto the run. The run's the easiest part, because really what do you need? Either you wear bike shoes and you have to change your shoes, or you don't wear bike shoes and you don't have to change your shoes. The race belt, so like I said, I usually tuck it into my shoes so that I can't forget it. You'll already have it numbered and pinned, so you just put it on and go. And then it gets a little bit of like, what's your preference? I like to run in a hat or a visor, so I'll have that there. Also, if you need any nutrition, you'll have that there. You can also, if you need nutrition, you can already have it in your race belt. If you're just gonna use the course nutrition, then you don't need it. But really all you need is shoes, your number, and a hat, whatever it is, and then you take off. And then you'll see the same thing. There'll be a big sign that says run out. That's where you're gonna run out, and you're gonna go on the run. You'll cross the finish line. The finish line will not be near the transition. So it's not like, so you don't finish back into the transition.
Oh, nice.
They actually don't, you can't get back into transition until every bike is back on the rack. So that's just, that's just something to know. So if you're doing the international distance, you can't be back into transition until every bike from the sprint distance is on the rack. Same thing with bike, which usually, I mean, you might have to wait 30 minutes or so if you're in an earlier wave. But if not, it's usually not too bad. And they have shuttles that take you there because you might be a little tired. And then you can reclaim all of your stuff. So that's basic.
Where's the bike end?
So the bike ends, it's right off of like the Randolph Street, right there by so transition area is by the yacht club, just north of Monroe Harbor, this big grassy area kind of by the yacht club.
And then the run ends where?
The run ends in Grant Park, yeah, so right by the fountain, right before the fountain. So it's not too far. I mean, you can certainly walk it. It's not, but if you want to take, they have a bunch of trolleys going. A few other random things, like I wear contacts, so I always put like an extra pair of contacts on my transition mat because if I lose them in the swim, there's no way I'm doing the bike without being able to see. So that's a good thing. Same thing, like if you have inhaler or things, you can leave that stuff on there. Bringing it in a bag, you can do it a lot of different ways. So Chicago, you can have bags. There are some races that you can't have bags in transitions. Chicago, you can. You can either just bring it in. I mean, there are people that bring it in, the reusable grocery bags. Obviously, if you've been in this sport long enough already to know they make something for everything. So they actually make transition bags. Basically, it just has different compartments for like your helmet, your wetsuit, things like that. That bag you can put like underneath your rear tire. So really the idea is that there's always gonna be like 18 inches to 2 feet for each person. So you want to keep your stuff pretty compact. Like you'll see pictures of transitions where this stuff's everywhere. And really there's just not enough room for that. So keeping it narrow and compact is good. Another thing is, practice transitions. And when you practice transitions, make a checklist, because the night before there's probably going to be some nerves, things like that, and you just don't want to have to worry about forgetting anything. It inevitably happens, you see somebody doing a race in, bare feet or something, you forget your running shoes or something like that. But if you make a checklist, you can't miss anything. A few other points, pumping your tires up. Do it before you get to transition if possible. There will be pumps in there, and we specifically for the first timers make sure we have a lot of pumps so that nobody has to worry about that. But it's a good thing because there's always a line. And then flat tire stuff, at least have it. Even if you don't know how to use it, it makes it a lot quicker on the course if you get a flat tire, because then one of the technicians, we know you have the stuff that fits your bike, and that makes it easy. So that's a couple of the random things. Any questions on how it all works? Does that make sense? How we kind of explained it? Yeah.
I had a question about, so the bike is not chained to the racks?
Not chained to the rack, no. Luckily they have very good security. So the other thing is you can't get into transition unless you have your numbers, and you'll also have a wristband. Your wristband will correspond to a number on your bike. And that's those, so your family and friends can't come into transition with you, only you and your bike. And when you leave, there are security people standing at the exits that make sure your wristband matches your bike. So you don't chain it to the rack at all. Yeah.
And we're gonna get all of the wristband and everything on the Saturday, right?
Yep. At the expo, you'll get all of the, the course talk that is clinic number 6. You can either come to clinic number 6 or clinic at the expo. But at that point, you'll get a wristband. That wristband will allow you to get your packet, because unlike like 5Ks, triathlons, course stocks are mandatory because there's a lot more logistics and stuff. So yeah. A couple other things on the expo, or during the expo time, we'll have a couple times, another kind of benefit of being in the first timers program, where if you want to come, where they'll let only the first timers into the transition area, where we can walk through this whole thing again with the racks, and so you can see it all and how it all, like where the bike in is, where the bike out is, things like that. So we'll start probably in a couple weeks. We'll say, you know, here are the 3 times. We're all, any first timer wants to go into transition with some coaches, we're all going in there. So yeah. Any other questions?
I don't know, you may have mentioned this already, but what's the distance between when you finish the bike to the transition area? How many miles is there?
So when you when you finish the bike to go to the run, or
no, I'm sorry. After you finish the run, you go back to the transition area.
Yeah,
How many miles?
it's not that. I mean, it might be. So it's like, it might be half a mile. I don't. So yeah. So if you think of where I usually, if I'm walking back, it's like you cross where the fountain is, and then walk up the lakefront path. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's even a mile back. So it's not too far. I mean, it maybe is a 10-minute walk. It's more so that you might be pretty tired, you might be hot. But luckily they have a good like after party thing, so you can get some food and stuff and before you walk back there. So yeah, I would say a couple other things. So you, like I said, there'll be times that transition opens and time that it closes. It's usually it's like 2 hours or something. You know, not that you have to be there 2 hours ahead of time, but leave enough time so that if anything does, you know, if there's any unexpected things, you're not in a rush. You don't have to worry about that. So if you're driving, just account for the time for parking. Again, it being a pretty large race, you know, parking, it's not hard, but there's definitely people, you know, there. So leave some time for that. And where you park to where transition is. And they'll give maps, and we also give out a kind of like a course, I don't know, 101 and what to expect for the weekend kind of packet, but it'll be a little bit of a walk from wherever you park to transition. So yeah, so that's, other thing is it will be dark. That's because it's going to be early, unless you decide to do the second transition. If you're doing the first one, it will definitely be dark. So if you happen to have, you know, one of the run lights or something, that's, you know, not a bad thing to have. Not very well lit. Yeah, it's not. They do bring in a couple like of the, you know, lights, but it's such a large area that's not great. Yeah.
Well, first timers stuff will be all together.
Yes, that's the good thing. They'll all be together, and it's usually a pretty good spot. So yeah.
Using like iPhones or something during the race.
So there are no what do they call them? Electronic devices other than like a bike computer. I do, and they'll definitely hit upon this on the course deck. I do believe that you can have it. It just like has to be in your bag. You can't ever bring it out. Like if it's you know, whatever. If it's a safety issue or something, or you don't have a place to put it or whatever, it just can never really come out. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So the question was like the day before, do you have to have all of your gear set up? Not all your gear. No. If you want to, the only thing you can do the day before is rack your bike. So what you would do is they'll say, you know, from 11 to 5, you can rack your bike. And so if you've gone to the expo and you've gotten your number, you can go find a spot on the rack and put your bike there, and then it will be watched overnight. So you'll still have to go to transition the next morning to set up all of your stuff. Yeah. No chain. Yep. So yeah, they have lots of security again. So yeah, so you're good to go. Yeah. Any other questions as far as transitions go? No? Cool. Yeah, so the next one is going to be more general. If you have any questions whatsoever about anything, we'll talk about all of that stuff. And As always, you can always email myself, so Gillian at LiveGrit or Rashawn at LiveGrit, and
Just how it sounds.
yes, Rashawn, R-I-S-H-A-N. Other thing is we are doing one more do-it-yourself triathlon. If you missed the July one and have any interest, I believe it's August 13th or 12th, whichever one's a Saturday. And so it's basically a time that we set up a do-it-yourself triathlon, so we actually get the transition racks from the Chicago Triathlon and practice it from kind of start to finish. You can set up your own transition area. You can swim whatever distance, you can bike whatever distance, you can run whatever distance. We will tell you what distances, so if you want to do the full sprint or whatever, we'll tell you what those are. But the biggest thing is that we set up a whole transition area, watch your stuff while you're out there so you can practice it. So you can find that on our website under events. It says do it yourself triathlon. So yeah, awesome. All right, well then we will hold off here and do the next clinic in a little bit.